Go to Denmark, they teach in Danish. Go to Norway, they teach in Norwegian. Go to Sweden, they teach in Swedish. Go to Finland, they teach in Finnish. Go to Korea, they teach in Korean. Go to China, they teach in Chinese. Go to Japan, they teach in Japanese. Then they meet the world. But you and me, here I am waxing eloquent in English. Today we are here to talk about rethinking of education, because we in Africa have borne the brunt of abuse. That which we had was disrupted. In Mali, which is not too far from here, in the 14th century, long before the American Declaration of Independence, long before the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, long before all these declarations that you hear about, there lived a man, Sundiata Keita. And there was a Declaration of Human Rights, the Mandian Charter. You could not write a charter if you had no education. We had education. You are not far from Benin. The walls of Benin, history will tell you, were longer than the great walls of China. The Europeans and Americans are now admitting that they stole our artifacts and they are returning them. We had education here. The Monomotapa Empire in what is now called Zimbabwe. The Akan peoples here, the Ga, the Ewe, the Mandinka, the Bambara, the Mosi, the Baganda, the Ovambo and Ovimbundu in Angola had systems of governance. That is why you say Nananum. There is wisdom in that. So when somebody comes here and tells you that we only started governing ourselves when something called democracy was introduced to us, he is a liar. And we are telling ourselves that we were disrupted. This is why we have this conversation today. The disruption was so grave. But the disruption was so thorough that when we regained our independence, or even before, we were told that our names were not good. So that when you are Christianized, and you are Pipim, and you went for baptism, and you renounced the devil with all his works, they also said you have to be John. Because in their scheme of things, it appears that the heavens only recognize John, not Pipim. We were told that all the education we had acquired meant nothing. So that if you are eloquent in Ga or in Chui, you are not intelligent. You are only intelligent in English. You can only be intelligent in French. In Portuguese, we now know that that is nonsense. And you know, when that great Nigerian musician in the 1980s, fella Nicola Pokuti said, "Teacher, don't teach me nonsense." He meant it. He was reminding us that we must examine our education system. You know, when the British came here and they were establishing schools across Africa, and then when they were establishing Achimota, which is famous for producing great Ghanaians, the intention was to produce young men and women who would support the colonial empire. The intention was the same in Uganda with Budo's King's College. It was the same in Kenya with the Alliance schools. As Chinua Achebe says, the white man was clever. He came and put a knife in the things that held us together, and things fall apart. And they have remained apart. So today, when we come here to talk about education, we come here to remind ourselves that we have urgent business to be undertaken. We have urgent business to be undertaken to remind ourselves that Martin Luther King Jr. is still right. The mind is the standard of the man. Because if the mind cannot imagine, then we cannot realize our potential. So we are here to interrogate our education system. That we have now become famous for producing graduates in agriculture, some of whom, if you allow me a little latitude and hyperbole, cannot distinguish between a goat and a sheep. And that is why every person you ask in Africa is a farmer, but we are still importing chicken from Brazil. What happened? We were disrupted. When we want to build our roads, we have engineers, most of whom today, if you do not address them as engineers so and so, they rise up, ready to beat you up. But yet, when we are building our highway from Accra through to Winneba, through to Cape Coast, through to La Côte d'Ivoire, it is the Chinese that I see. Which calls into question, what type of engineering are we teaching? We are producing doctors, and they are good, some of them. But yet, when those of us who have the ability are sick, unless they do not know, they want to be airlifted to Dubai and to Germany. They have no faith in our medical system. When we are sick during COVID, all Africa is crying to America, "Oh, give us Moderna, give us Pfizer," to the Russians, "give us Sputnik." We are crying. Yet we have universities with professors in medicine. You know, there is a missing link somewhere. Until the day we have the courage to find that missing link, then we are not preparing for the 21st century. we do not consume. We must re-examine our education system. Even in matters as mundane as sports, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, the United States of America offers our young men and women scholarships to study sports. Our universities don't. Football is a multi-billion-dollar industry. But yet, when one of the masters of ceremony was speaking in jest, it is not the anthem of Asante Kotoko that he remembered, but that of Liverpool, we shall not walk alone. So that as we are sitting here, even in the area of sports, which is a whole multi-billion-dollar industry, our young men and women are preoccupied with whether Arsenal beat Real Madrid or Barcelona beat Borussia Dortmund. They do not care whether Hafia Guinea du Conakry beat Asante Kotoko. The Osagiefo was right when he said, we may actually solve the economic problem. We may even solve the political problem. But I dare say that the mental problem which was impacted and makes us feel inferior will take a little longer to solve. This was not only said by the Osagiefo himself in 1963. In 1933, Carter G. Woodson, that African-American educator writing in his book, Miseducation of the Negro, said that we have been so miseducated for so long. Our self-esteem has been undermined for so long. We have been made to use the back door for so long that even when we are told to use the front door, we look for the back door, and if we can't find it, we create our own back door. The level of our miseducation is amazing. We must change it in order to enter into the 21st century. The time is now for us to change our minds. And we can only change our minds if we decolonize our minds. Ngugi wa Thiong'o, that famous Kenyan writer, says, until the day that we decolonize our minds, we are going nowhere. And Ngugi reminds us that we may have decolonized our countries, but there is something called decoloniality, totally liberating ourselves from the mental chains of the colonizers. You know, the Osagiefo, to whom Africans owe an apology, wrote in his great book, Neo-colonialism, the last stage of imperialism, and the most dangerous. We are in that stage. That stage when the colonizer still wants us to believe that our literature is inferior, that our science does not exist, that our mathematics does not exist, that we have no medicine to talk about, that we cannot mine beyond Galamsey, that we cannot extract our own oil, that we have no business being in robotics and cryptocurrency, that we must be consigned to the Museum of History alongside the spinning wheel, that we have no business being in the jet age. That is what we are being told. And my fear is that we appear to be believing it. We appear to be believing it because in our institutions of learning, when you look at our curriculum and you look at the curriculum of a number of countries in the Middle Ages, there is no difference. And I want to remind all of us that in the 1960s, when we were regaining our independence, and you read what was happening in different African countries, and I remind you to reread some of the thinkers of the time and the emphasis that they put on education. I was rereading for the umpteenth time the 32 speeches that were delivered by African leaders in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, between the 23rd and 25th days of May 1963. All of them, without exception, said one thing: if we are to give meaning to our independence, then education must be our focus. So said Ethiopia's Haile Selassie. If we want to change the continent of Africa, we must give meaning to education. So said Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere of Tanzania on that day. If we are going to change my little Senegal, we must give education priority. So said Leopold Sédar Senghor of Senegal. Even the complicit Félix Houphouët-Boigny in La Côte d'Ivoire believed so. But the ultimate was, of course, the one and only, the Osagyefo. That is why when I heard my good friend talking about free basic education, he knew that ignorance is the enemy of progress. He knew that if there was a ghost that we had to exorcise, it was the ghost of ignorance. He knew that if there was a devil that we had to pray and fast against, it was ignorance. He knew that if there was anything we had to marshal our forces against in order to exorcise the ghost of tribalism in its primordial sense, it was ignorance. He knew. Yet, several years down the line, when you ask your typical academic, when they want to say that the University of Winneba, of education at Winneba is good, they say it is as good as Oxford. Why? Why can't it be just good? They must say that it's as good as Harvard, as MIT. Why must we always have this inadequacy to compare ourselves with others? We must change in order to enter the 21st century with confidence. If they do not have laws that if we refine cannot lead us into the 21st century. Ask the Akan people if they do not have such laws. Ask the Fante people if they do not. Ask the Ewe if they do not. They do. We live in a world where we are so mentally captured that those of you in the middle class, your greatest claim to fame is that my daughter can no longer speak Chui and is meant to be a badge of honor. It is a badge of complete colonial conquest. And we cannot enter the 21st century with that mindset. Go to the countries in the Scandinavia, which we can dare compare ourselves with. Go to Denmark, they teach in Danish. Go to Norway, they teach in Norwegian. Go to Sweden, they teach in Swedish. Go to Finland, they teach in Finnish. Go to Korea, they teach in Korean. Go to China, they teach in Chinese. Go to Japan, they teach in Japanese. Then they meet the world. But you and me, here I am waxing eloquent in English. not in Kiswahili. We must revamp our curriculum. And we must have the courage to do so as I speak to you now. We are here to remind ourselves that we had a good past. We are here to remind ourselves that others came and through slavery they disrupted that past. That they did not stop there, that they came again under colonization, and this time they disrupted us so very thoroughly and took away even the most precious of things, our confidence. That when they came here and imposed an education system, that education system had only one agenda. The agenda was to create men and women, if they were the English who colonized you, who could speak English and be their clerks. If you are colonized by the French, that you could speak French or Portuguese or Italian or Germany. When we regained our independence, we only made cosmetic changes. The time is now to go deep and remove the cosmetics and go to the fundamentals. And I'm suggesting to you that that has been done.